back to the Whatnauts review show number 188. Each week here on the review show, we have a brand new story to talk about. It could be a comic, a movie, a TV show, all sorts of stuff. We read it, watch it, come back here and talk about it. This week, we are going to be talking about the Matrix franchise. All 5 Matrix movies, the 4 live action ones, as well as the Animatrix. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, how's it going?
Hello. It's going well. This is our first episode of the new year. I'm happy to be here. And I think these films are a great way to kick it off. What's more futuristic than The Matrix?
Exactly. Here we are in 2022, the future, right? That's gonna age for an entire year, and then it's not gonna be true. Yeah, I think the Matrix is an interesting way to kick the new year off. I'm glad we did this one. For a couple reasons. You hadn't seen these before. You hadn't seen any of the Matrix movies, but I know you've seen and felt its influence. I know you've seen some of the memes, some of the you kind of knew.
I've seen Shrek.
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen Speed Racer several times. That gets me close.
Yeah. But then there was a brand new Matrix movie that came out this past year. At the time of recording this, it's still on HBO Max. You guys can go check it out. And yeah, I'm super excited to talk about these. Besides not seeing it, what was your experience with the Matrix like? Like, what did you actually know, or what did you think you knew about the Matrix?
I knew Neo was a man, and Agent Smith showed up and called him Mr. Anderson, and he was mean.
Mr. Anderson.
And Neo. Right. Then Morpheus comes and talks to him. He's like, which pill do you want? And Neo's like, I want the red one. Thank you. And then he learns Kung Fu. He kisses Trinity. He fights like 100 Agent Smiths.
Yep.
And there's a fight on an overpass. Like there's a highway fight. And like, that's all I knew. And I knew like the visual language of the film. I knew the green text, the leather coats, the bullet time. I didn't know that there was stuff in here that I had seen and had no idea it was from The Matrix. I knew the phrase, there is no spoon, but I didn't know this is what it was from. And I'd seen the pictures of Keanu Reeves with like no mouth, but I thought that was from Constantine.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Doesn't that seem like a dark magic thing to do? Like a demon steals your mouth? A demon's more likely to steal your mouth than a computer program is. So that was my thinking.
Okay. That's a good guess. Yeah, man. The Matrix was kind of unescapable for me. Back when the first one came out, this movie was everywhere. It was like the movie that was sold with DVD players, because DVD players were brand new and everyone had to get one, and it was like a package bundle, and if you had a DVD player, you had Matrix. And I wasn't old enough to watch it yet, so I didn't see it right away. But I did manage to get it, or to see it at a friend's house like a year or two later. And man, it was just the coolest. Like it was so neat. Like just like young Kyle's mind blown of just like, what, reality? Is it real? What's going on? I don't know. And yeah, like this was one of the like influential films for me as to like why I really like movies, and it just it's like the whole thing was just a mind-blowing experience. And then as the sequels came out, things kind of fell off, I felt like. I just like I wasn't as into it. It didn't click with me as much. And then I don't know what stopped me, but I guess I didn't watch the Animatrix until like I want to say like end of high school, early college, and that kind of dragged me back in. Like just like rediscovering it and being like, oh wait, so that's how the Matrix got started. Interesting. And then I watched the films again and understood them a little more, or just like had that continuity, like that bigger world building in my head. And so I think it became cooler again. It became cool again, but also became cooler. And I think in hindsight, like looking back on those second and third films, the third is still, I think, maybe the weakest. And that second one, I think the more I watch the second one, the more I appreciate it. But kind of the general
second
consensus,
one, yes.
Yeah, the general consensus at the time when those came out was just that they were not good. It was just like, oh, the Matrix, the first one was perfect. It was amazing. And then the second two was just like, ooh, that was a swing and a miss.
Well, I gotta say that watching all of these for the first time, I did not like the third one as much as I liked the first two, but I couldn't watch it and see it being infamously bad. And I know that it is. That is how it is thought of in the public consciousness. I couldn't get it. I couldn't make my brain love it or hate it. I just took it in. It just happened.
To be honest, the way you watched it is probably the best thing to do, because the second and third movie was made back to back, and they released, if I'm not mistaken, like within 6 months of each within 6 months of one another. So like you watched that second one and you didn't have to wait 2 or 3 years to get the sequel. It was just like, hey, in 6 months I will now go watch the next one. But the Matrix was also really cool because it's also one of the first, or I guess the earliest successful like cross media franchises that's out there. Certain things had been turned into books and comics and stuff like that in the past, but this was more than just an adaptation of, okay, we made these movies, let's turn it into comics. It was, no, let's make comics that are in that world that are canon, but it's not stories that you saw in the movies. Let's make video games that are set in the Matrix, in the canon of the movies, but are not things you've seen yet. And that was really cool. And its influence is still like being felt today with all the like Marvel cinematic stuff and just how they could do all of that. All the recent Star Wars stuff where you got the books and the comics and the TV shows and they're all canon and stuff like that. And it's just it's neat to think about. And it's just I feel like for me it holds a special place in my heart because it was like the first one of those that I paid attention to. So I like the Matrix. The Matrix is cool. The Matrix is fun. Good.
It is. Yeah, watching all of these, like I said, for the first time, I'd never seen more of it than just like commercials and clips and GIFs and things like that. I did like them more than I thought I would. My impression of them was that they would be, I thought that they would be very cerebral and they would be so cool to the point where they were cold. Like the entire thing was just like shiny and slick and like wearing sunglasses and like visually, aesthetically it is. But I found that the movies have a lot more heart to them than I was expecting. Neo and Trinity have got a very touching romance.
Yeah.
And of course, all the visual things, having not seen the movie, they're very cool. But I was impressed by how the movie looked in all the times when it wasn't supposed to be flashy. like just simple back and forth dialogue sequences, just sets of 2 shots were just lit and shot very well. Like there's a lot of very competent filmmaking in here, even in the moments that aren't groundbreaking filmmaking.
Yeah. I think it's especially that first film, because that's the one that people have like dug into the most, I feel like. But especially in that first one, the influences that they're pulling from all the different filmmaking techniques is incredible, and they use them so masterfully. Like the first one starts feeling almost like a horror film. Like it's scary and it's dark, and the lighting and the camera work just makes it feel like a horror action film. And then it switches to this like everyday drama about this sad little man who's stuck in his cubicle in his office, and he's about to go on an adventure. And it's the way it can twist and turn like that, and then go straight into like anime kung fu style. It's just like, this is nuts. Like this is kind of wild. But yeah, like it's crazy to see that stuff. All the performances in this are great. There's maybe a few that you could say like, I don't know how I feel about those, but those would often be like smaller side characters. So yeah, I still feel like at least the first Matrix is still an incredible film and highly rewatchable. Just go have fun, go put it on. And then, like I said, that second one I'm appreciating more and more as time passes and I watch it in repeat viewings, which I guess lends me an appreciation for that third one, but that's still maybe my least favorite. I really like the Animatrix, and then we have to mention the new one, Matrix Resurrections. Which I think I ended up liking, but it's one that I feel like I'm gonna have to wrestle with and watch a couple more times to really dig into my feelings on that one. So there.
Yeah, and there's so much like intellectually going on with the Matrix, and I just took in everything for the first time. So there's going to be a lot of themes and ideas that I don't think I'm tuned into yet.
Yes, absolutely. I know the Wachowski sisters have come out as trans, and they've talked about the Matrix as a trans narrative and stuff like that. I'll be honest, I haven't dug into that as much, but yes, there's absolutely themes of identity and are you who society says you are versus who you want to be or who you think you are. There's all sorts of stuff like that in there. There's a bunch of religious themes. There's a bunch of just like themes of society and capitalism, and there's a lot packed in this, and I think it handles it very adeptly usually. So it's good. It's fun. But let's do, I guess, kind of let's do a plot synopsis for the first one to just kind of kick things off. If you have never heard of the Matrix and are still unsure what the Matrix is, all of that stuff, let's do kind of a simple plot synopsis for that first one. So the first Matrix follows the unsuspecting Thomas Anderson. He's working his day job. He's at some kind of tech corporation working IT security something, but he moonlights as a hacker. And he gets, basically what happens is he gets recruited into this war, into this other world that he didn't know existed. Basically, the world that he thought was reality is not, and is in fact virtual reality. And there's a big war going on between the humans and the machines, and the Matrix is this virtual reality that the machines have basically pulled the wool over humanity's eyes and are using them for batteries, powered themselves. So
I did know that. I knew people were batteries.
Kind of crazy, yeah. But yeah, so on top of all of that, there's a prophecy that says this guy, Thomas Anderson, is the one. He is Neo. He is the savior that will bring peace and will end the war with the robots. And so yeah, that's kind of what these movies are navigating and exploring. And I highly recommend them if you have not checked them out yet. They are hugely influential, especially for like that 2000s era movies and stuff like that. It's the Matrix is basically the reason those original X-Men movies all wore black leather and stuff like that. Action films then try to do more of that bullet time stuff. Just like it's a must watch in my opinion. So, Melissa, do you have final thoughts on The Matrix before we get into spoilers and stuff like that?
I'll just say don't sleep on the Animatrix. I think at least some of those short films in that anthology were helpful in me understanding the larger mythology of the primary live action Matrix films. And every one of those shorts is done in a different style. There's a lot going on. That was very fun to watch. Don't skip it.
Yeah. Good anthology series. Right now, those are all on HBO Max, is where you can find them. So go check it out. And in the meantime, we're going to do some housekeeping. And then we are going to get into spoilers and start talking about these films a little bit more in depth. So we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. Big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you to Sam. We love you a lot.
Thanks,
we appreciate you. Thank you. From the Matrix. Haha. So
best wishes from the Matrix to you.
Yeah,
this holiday season.
Santa hats. Cool things that we are doing here at the Whatnauts. It is the start of a brand new year. We're just kicking things back up. Melissa, you and I recorded our first Captain's Log on Friday. Here we are recording the first things for the review show. I guess right now we can announce what we're going to be doing for the end of the month special, which is something that we can't really cover week to week because it's a lot longer than something we could cover in a single week. But this is something we usually do multiple things for at the end of each month for 3 months, sometimes 4 months. Consecutively. So With that, I had some manga that I had kind of shown to Melissa. Let me actually pull this up on Comixology, or I think I have it listed in my notes here of all of the stuff. But yeah, so we are going to be reading 12 volumes of a manga. I believe that is all of them. It should be all of them. Of Knights of Sidonia. That's what we're going to be covering here on the review show for our end of the month special. I'm not sure yet how much if we're gonna do it over the next 2 months or the next 3 months. But we will decide that in the next coming weeks and let you all know. These are all available on Comixology Unlimited. Let me read you the description here. Knights of Sidonia. Outer space, the far future. A lone siege ship, the Sidonia, plies the void. Is that right? Is that plies? Yeah, plies the void.
You can ply a void.
There you go. 10 centuries since the obliteration of the solar system, the massive, nearly indestructible yet barely sentient alien life forms that destroyed humanity's home world continue to pose an existential threat. Nagate Tanakaze has only known life in the vessel's bowels, deep below the sparkling strata where humans have achieved photosynthesis and new genders. Not long after he emerges from the underground, however, the youth is bequeathed a treasured legacy by the spaceship's cool-headed female captain. Yeah, so I've seen the anime of this years ago. I don't think it was complete though. I don't remember it being. It's if you want to watch it as well, it's on Netflix. But we're gonna be reading the manga, and I'm excited about this because we haven't done a manga yet for our end of the month special stuff. So Comixology, you guys can check out the first 12 volumes of Knights of Sidonia. That's what we will be covering in the coming weeks here. Game of the Year podcast for Crossplay is also, we're recording it today, which is on a Sunday. And that's going to be in our feeds very shortly. So if you're a video game fan and want to know what our Game of the Year is here at Crossplay or here at the Whatnauts, you guys can go listen to that over on the other feed. Yeah. Got some neat things happening here at the Whatnauts. I hope this year is a good year. We're experimenting. We have a brand new TikTok, which is we're gonna be posting some short videos on. Yeah, we're in the future. Future indeed. Cool. Well, that's about it for housekeeping. So let us get into spoilers for The Matrix. Bam, here we are. Spoilers for The Matrix. So we have 5 movies to talk about. There's a lot.
Many.
You kind of mentioned it before just because this was your first time watching it, but I think for the sake of time, we also won't get to dive into as deeply as some might want. There might be things that we miss or gloss over. But we're just here to have a good time and talk about The Matrix. So, Melissa, you have now seen them all.
I have.
Just
in order.
Yeah, there you go. You were thinking about, what if I watch these backwards? And I was like,
I had long teased that concept. But before we agreed on doing this for the first podcast of the year, just because I'd never seen any of the movies, I was so baffled by them. I knew that there was a decline in quality, and I thought, what if I take these backwards? I get the fun of not knowing anything, and then I get to end on a high note where I'm like, this is the best movie, and I understand everything now. It's a tactic I still want to try with some other franchise I don't know, watching them backwards and just see what that does for me. Just as,
you know, with Fast and the Furious.
That's like what I was thinking. I think that's the best candidate.
Just start bombastic and like, what? How did they get here? And then
and then go back to we're stealing
to
DVD players.
Yeah.
These are my challenges. You know, like some people run marathons. I want to do this.
Backwards movie marathons. That's great.
I've never done it before with new movies, but I've done it with movies I've already seen, like all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. We did all those backwards in one day. That was a trip.
That's funny. But I mean, I kind of already asked you what you thought at the start for spoiler free. But is there something you want to add to that now that we're in spoilers about how you felt about these, or maybe what you liked or didn't like?
I'll say, kind of starting at the end, I enjoyed Matrix Resurrections, and I think it answered a lot of things I found troubling about the original movies, which is that, first off, I was so impressed that this movie, which I believe was the original Matrix, was the Wachowskis' second directorial effort. They'd only directed one other film before that. It's so completely formed. It's so in and of itself. It is an entire complete set of ideals. Like, there's not really any rough patches or seams. It doesn't feel like a sophomore effort. It feels very effortless. Yeah. And I admired that about it a lot, that it was just such a clear, concise vision. And I knew what it looked like, but watching the movie, and you've got a very diverse cast throughout this trilogy, which is, you know, throughout all of them, which is very admirable. But I'm like, what are the chances that everybody in this resistance has the exact same aesthetic? Like, you go into the Matrix, you can be anything. You can look like anything. All of you look like you shopped at the same store in the same aisle. And I get it. I get that is the Wachowskis' vision. Right. Like, it's all like PVC and shiny black leather and sunglasses.
Yep.
And I was like, was there anybody who wanted to join? But they're like, you know, in my ideal version of myself, Hawaiian shirt. And Morpheus is like, I'm denying your application. There's no spot for you on the Nebuchadnezzar. Good luck. Try some other ship.
Pink, guys, where's Pink? That's what I want to know.
I liked that scene in the second movie where you meet the Merovingian and he like gives some lady an orgasm dessert just because that lady's wearing a pink dress. Like, finally, a difference in the color palette. And like it does start expanding a bit more as you move throughout the trilogy. And especially moving to Resurrections, I'm like, this is what I was looking for. Everyone is so stylish, but in more distinct ways from each other.
And oddly enough, though, it's the same style. Like, the outfits they have on are the same style. They're wearing it the same way. But yeah, they've added in color to the stuff, which is
colorful. Yeah, the fourth movie, I think, looks very good. I love the use of color. I love Neil Patrick Harris's blue glasses. Like, symbolically, they fit. But also just stylistically, those are cool glasses.
Yeah, the Matrix has a history of cool glasses with Morpheus
all over
like
the place.
No side thing. It just fits on the brow of his nose. Yeah.
I love the second generation Morpheus, the Yahya Abdul Mateen II, I believe is that actor's name. Lawrence Fishburne didn't return.
Even more fierce.
The most fierce.
The most fierce.
I like most fierce and his super colorful suits. Like, I like that I enjoyed the ride with the movies. I respected, admired the aesthetic, but I'm like, this isn't really for me. And then we get to the fourth movie and it's like, do you like this better? And I do. It's not like the movie was thinking of me, but in its own evolution, it came closer to things I was wishing for.
That's good. So I kind of mentioned the fourth movie as one that I feel like I'm going to have to wrestle with a little bit more. I felt like it was trying to tackle some challenges that I feel, and I think most people feel like are insurmountable, right? It is this impossible problem of like how do we continue this story even though the story was so complete? How
Mm.
do we kind of step over its own influence and ego kind of to make something new and make it interesting and not make it cheesy? And it's one of those things where Lana Wachowski was like, I have a solution. Here's my solution. And you just kind of have to chew on it and be like, is that a solution? Does that work? I don't know. Maybe. I like it's yeah, like I will say that I felt like the fourth movie, the newest one, got off to a rocky start. It wasn't something that I necessarily wanted or was expecting. It felt so radically different from the rest of them that it was off-putting to me. But that's the thing. That solution might work. Is the thing. So I don't know. Like I just have to chew on it some more and be like, is this what I really wanted and just didn't know it? I don't know.
Something I learned that really helped how I thought about Resurrections is that in the time since the original trilogy, in the last handful of years, like the Wachowskis lost both their parents. Lana lost some close friends, and she was in this period of a lot of grief where she's like, the people I would turn to talk about these are gone. Like, I feel very lonely. I feel very lost. And she started thinking of Neo and Trinity and how those were characters that meant so much to her that they felt very close and real, like family and friends. And she's like, I miss them. I want to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And I think the Resurrections is a beautiful illustration of that, and a beautiful illustration of why we return to stories. It's got a lot of satire about the nature of sequels, but I think there's also a lot of sincerity in there. Like, we keep coming back to these things because these feel like friends. It's good to have the people may complain about like a lack of creativity and things just cycling over and over again, but you will go through points in your life where you need something familiar. You just need to see your old friends again.
Indeed. Well, let's start. Let's dive into the first one. Let's go back to the first Matrix and talk about that. What stood out to you about that first one there? Did you have a favorite moment? What was going on in your mind when you first discovered the Matrix?
Like I said, I loved how it was shot. I knew the flashy bits, but there's a lot of just simple, clean, good framing, good lighting, good cinematography. I really like the scene where Thomas Anderson is in his boss's office getting griped at, and there's a window washer outside, and you see like from the perspective of outside the window, like all of this like bubble and foam and water on the window just getting squeegeed away. It's a beautiful shot. There's so much to remark upon in these movies besides bullet time.
Yeah, there really is. Because there's just these film. What I find commendable about these films is just how much iconography and theme just they're pulling from everything, and they pack it in so expertly that I never feel like they tried to pull in, themes of religion and Christianity, and they didn't get there. Like I always felt like I at least got something to chew on and take a bite off of.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before. Like, there's so much stuff going on in this trilogy, and rarely do I feel like anything was half baked or half formed.
Right.
Like, there's even if I don't always get it, I see that the movie is in its own terms and its own vision very clear.
Or on the opposite end, even if the things that they're doing, or the philosophy that they're talking about is maybe philosophy 101. Like, is this really reality? I don't know. Like I feel like they handle their fundamentals so well that it's like, I don't need you to do all these like advanced theorems and philosophizing and stuff like that. Like, this is enough. Like, you've given me enough to chew on, to build out this world. And it's not just in what the characters say and do, but it's why things look the way they look. Why, when you're inside the Matrix, everything is tinted green, or that window washing scene being representative of Neo's life, of Tom's life himself. He is this dirty window looking through the fog, and he's getting it cleaned and squeegeed off so he can truly see what's on the outside. Or like you mentioned, Neil Patrick's Harris's like blue glasses of just like, oh, well, that's representative of the blue pill. He's literally looking through the blue pill, like that. Like that's what it's supposed to be. And some of that can be on the nose. Or again, like in the fourth one, where they're like, what is the nature of stories, and like, why do we like the Matrix as a video game, and it's just like, oh god, this feels like there's a part of it like it happened. I forget at what line it was, but I was watching this with my girlfriend, and they said something, and I just went wah, wah, wah. Like, okay, here we go. But I feel like even in those bits, they're not being meta to be like ooh, we're the Matrix, we're edgy, like, oh yeah, it's yeah, there is an edginess to it, but we're actually taking a serious look at this. Why do we do it this way? Why is it that when we try to get meta, we try to get edgy and stuff like that? Like, do we really need to do that? Can that lead to something else? So yeah, there's interesting conversations happening everywhere in this film, and I think that's incredible. There's just so much stuff in that one, and god, the action, the fight scenes in this are so unique. I still, I think to this day, feel like I haven't seen anything like it. It's it's pulling influences from anime and from the wuxia, I believe is how it's pronounced, the like Chinese, Japanese, like crouching tiger, hidden dragon, as I know, like the mainstream one that I only know because I'm not super familiar with that genre. But yeah, they're pulling that and mixing it in, and it just there's a ton of CGI in those fight scenes too, and at the time that CGI was just like ground-breaking stuff, and it was like, oh my god. And looking back, it can look a little rubbery now, but it's still such an interesting technique that they did with that I kind of enjoy. I kind of like it because it almost looks fake. Like, it just there's something so charming.
You're right. That is something I've been thinking about lately. That I can tell when there is lower quality CGI, or like CGI in a movie from like 15, 20 years ago that is the best that they could do and became dated very quickly as the technology advanced. And looking at like rubber men fighting each other does give me this weird sort of warm nostalgia.
It
I don't
really
mind
does,
it
in a weird way. Like, so I the one thing that I kind of knew about the newest Matrix Resurrections before going in is that it was very divisive. You either hate it or you love it, and a lot of people have been criticizing the fights, the fight scenes and stuff like that. And I think I would have to agree. I didn't like the fight scenes as much in the new one because they used less CGI. And like
Mm.
I almost want that like rubbery feeling back. And like seeing them do more of those stunts in real life, it just felt like they moved slower or they moved differently, and they didn't do as much of the like bullet time stuff. I felt like the fight scenes in the new one weren't as good as what we saw in the originals. um but yeah, it's weird because the thing I want back is like I want that like CGI, like that rubbery CGI, because it's so nostalgic. It's so unique to the Matrix that like that is what
Yeah.
I think of when I think of the fight scenes there. So wild, wild. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm not
love that first one.
I'm not as much of an action movie person. I watch it, I enjoy it, but like if an action scene goes on too long without
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like dialogue or something, like I kind of glaze over, my brain kind of loses track of it. But there are some wonderful scenes in these. I love the sort of gunfight we get towards the end of the first one that's like Neo like cartwheeling through a
Yep.
lobby and it's like in slow motion and there's debris flying all over the place like he's inside a snow globe. I've never seen debris rendered so lovingly. And this big highway
Amazing.
chase fight
So
scene
good.
in Reloaded, that was one of the few things I did know about the Matrix. I saw that and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get why that was the highlight of the Matrix sequels.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They built
Another
their
thing
own
I
highway for that scene.
so impressive. They go to such lengths. Another thing I appreciated about the movies is that Neo's our protagonist. He is literally the one. They address him as such. But there are times when he'll split away from the storyline of other characters and we won't see Neo for like 30 minutes. The movies have enough confidence
Yeah.
that they will separate us from the protagonist for extended lengths of time and believe that they will still have a lot of interesting stuff to show us to keep our focus. And they do.
Yeah, they really do. I like that is one of the things that I think after this newer Matrix movie, I don't necessarily think I want a new trilogy per se, but I do want more stories in the Matrix. Like I would kind of like to know
Yes.
what happened in those 60 years of like between the original trilogy and this new installment, or like I want to see other ship captains and the like military
Yeah.
political struggle that's going on with them. Like they have interesting pockets of stuff that's out there. Um, or yeah, or just like they mentioned in this new one that there was this robot civil war. Like for the first time, we
Yeah.
saw robots fighting robots. Like that would be fascinating. Like I want more stories in the Matrix, but I don't necessarily need a new trilogy per se,
We just need another Animatrix.
or more comics stuff
Yeah,
like that.
or anything. I did like the new characters we met in Resurrections. I thought Bugs was very charming.
Bugs was great.
I
Mm-hmm.
like her. I like Mostfius. I like the rest of the crew. And I did
Most
really
fierce.
like, this is one of my favorite touches of this latest movie, that it was man versus robot. And then you did have some of the robots who were like, I don't like that this is what we do. I want to be something different. I'd like to be closer to man. I would like to get to know humankind and befriend humankind. And Niobe or somebody is a line like, we always thought it was us versus them. We never thought about what we could do if it was us and them together. I'd like to see this society where there are friend robots, friend technology machines of all sorts of kinds in different forms, different shapes and sizes, and they have cute names
Yeah.
and personalities.
Yeah. Which is an interesting line, because when you look at the Animatrix and they have the second Renaissance, I believe is what it's called. And yeah,
Yes.
it tells the backstory of how it all got started, how we built robots, we built artificial intelligence, and that sprung out for a long while, and then we started treating these robots badly and stuff like that, and eventually the robots just had enough, and one of them murdered someone, and then all of artificial intelligence is put on trial, and they're like, well, screw you, we're gonna go make our own city. And then they make 01, which is the first robot city, which I thought was interesting, that the new city in Matrix Resurrections is IO, which is just it backwards. I was like, oh, okay, that's neat. But like, I think in the Second Renaissance, we even see that when we first made these robots, it was like there was always that separation. Like it was the robots serve me. I have my smart home device back here. If I want to be like, hey, Amazon, whatever your thing is, change the lights. Like it does stuff for me, but it's never like me and this intelligence to work together to figure out something new. So that was neat. That was neat that they had that there. Let's see, what else do I want to mention about the first Matrix? Is there anything else? I just like there's so much iconic stuff in there, from taking the pills to the deja vu scene to just all sorts of stuff that just like that one is so much fun to watch. It has such a unique look. I love it a lot. I think especially watching it when I was like 12 or 13, like right when I'm like starting to figure out the world and think for myself, right? It was this mind-bending experience of things I thought I knew didn't necessarily have to be the way that I was told that they were. And I think also growing up religious, it was interesting to see the themes of religion in this franchise and reading the films a certain way, right? With a quote unquote Christian mindset of like, oh, well, everyone is born in sin and they all have the wool pulled over their eyes, and then you get woken up to the truth when you find Jesus and all that stuff. Like it connected with me on that level. But then now, not being religious, like I can still find just as much like stuff to dig into with these films that isn't necessarily about religion, or still is, and is like, well, yes, this still holds up, even though I don't identify, with these certain religions and stuff like that. It's just, I have nothing but good things to say about that first one. Great stuff. So.
Yeah, it was a movie I always, that in recent years I held off on watching because I had seen so many parodies and spoofs and homages. I didn't know if, after seeing the thing replicated so many times, if the original version would still have the same effect on me. And I don't know if it still has the same effect. But there was a lot that I got out of it. It is still worth returning to the source material to see the original version of everything you've seen copied, and to see all the other stuff that it was just, like I said, just solid filmmaking in non-flashy ways. All the other parts of it, besides what you've seen parodied in Shrek.
Yeah. I also have to give a shout out to Agent Smith. One of the best acted characters, I feel like, of all time. That performance is incredible. Just his line delivery in this throughout the entire series is so just, it's it's weird, it's creepy, it's slow and dragging, but yet like you sit on every word that he says to just like, what are you thinking, what are you doing? It's such a fascinating character to go from this like really silent, mysterious G-Men looking suit thing to then realizing that he's a very conflicted character and he's very fascinated with humans. Like like he reads to me as a character that I don't know if you've ever known someone who like this is might be a little weird to explain, but like he's gay. Everyone kind of knows he's gay, but the person like refuses to believe that he's gay and fights it. Like that's kind of how I read Smith. Of like he wants to be human so bad. He wants to do everything like them. He wants to feel emotions. He wants to do all of that stuff. But he's so disgusted by it at the same time that he fights it so hard. And that's just like kind of how I read. Just like the whole thing of like wiping Morpheus's sweat off his face and like smelling it. He's just like, I'm disgusted by it. And like, it's just like you want to be so close to it. You're so fascinated by these people that like you can't get rid of them. Like you have to be there. You have to be mixed up in their lives. So yeah, he just God his and then when you see other characters and other actors, like when Smith gets out of the Matrix in the third one, to see the other actor like do his cadence and stuff is fascinating. Like just imagine the conversations that those actors had to have. Like let's go meet at some coffee shop and we'll workshop some stuff here. And they're just trying to get the Mr. Anderson. I was wondering if you would give, and it like it. God, it just I love it. It's great. It's so good. So kudos to Agent Smith. Great character.
An excellent antagonist, and I think it's so funny that first movie won Agent Smith. Second movie, you better watch out because now there's like 25 Agent Smiths. So you into the final movie and you go to Smith City. Smiths line the streets. They watch you from windows. I like that the villain. He got more powerful. He evolved, yes, but instead of like replacing him with another big bad, it's like there's just more of him.
Yeah.
He's just multiplied. There's just hundreds of Smiths.
God.
I also another effect of the time that I think still plays really well is when Smith's consciousness is like jumping into other bodies and somebody's face will like wiggle and they'll turn into Smith. That effect is like in the time when it was made, advanced enough that it looks believable enough. Like you can tell this is a cutting edge effect for the time and it still looks okay now, but it also is dated enough and rubbery enough that it is uncanny. Like that effect was made at the right time to still play so strange and jarring right now. I'm happy it didn't look worse great. And didn't look better. Yeah,
it looked great in the new one because they show that effect like once or twice in Resurrections, and it looks better. Like you can tell that it's it's a more polished effect, but it still looks the same. Like it's just God, like that is what I was hoping for with the fight scenes, right? Like it looks better, but it's still the same effect. God, it was good. Yeah, that effect is disgusting and scary and great. So good stuff with that. So let's talk about the second two films, Reloaded and Revolutions, for that stuff. because yeah, these were made back to back. These were made as a single movie and then split.
I
So
knew that.
watching them back to back, I think helps. But man, I think the more interesting stuff is in that second film, and the third is basically like, okay, what if we zoom in on the climax and just spend a lot of time on that? So it feels slower. It feels just like there's not as much there because they've zoomed in on it. I don't know. But yeah, I really like some of the stuff that's in that second one. There, I think even kind of the like visual storytelling they do in the highway scene with Morpheus and his sword is really neat. Just like when you see him like stick it in the side and then he gets up and starts fighting without it, you kind of forget about the sword for a second, which is kind of incredible, because to see Morpheus fighting with a sword on top of a truck going like 60 miles an hour on this thing is awesome. It's great. Like how can they make me forget about this sword? But they do. And then when he needs to bring it back, you're just like, oh yeah, the sword. God, I forgot. It's so good. It comes back at the right moment. But yeah, like this is, I think, where you do start to get a little bit more style in the film. Things do start to evolve. We get characters like the Keymaker, who I thought was a really interesting character. The Merovingian, who I have to say I thought was actually pretty funny in the new one. I thought that was it was a really odd choice, but I was like, I kind of like this. Or he's like, I will spin off. I scoff at you and spit at you.
It is serendipitous that they had a character already built in from movie 2 that had the ability to believably be the mouthpiece of that much complaining and outrage.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, I see why that's in there. Perfect use of the Merovingian. That is what he would turn into. I also kind of like the Merovingian stuff. I think just because it felt tonally different than what the movie had been before. And as I said, it's such a whole well-formed piece. Mm-hmm. It's got such a clear vision, but it is like, yeah, I get it. The leather jacket, sunglasses, very cool. And then we get to go, there's a man in a suit at a restaurant? We haven't had that yet. That's such a normal thing, but I welcomed the variety that the Merovingian scenes brought to us. And even his wife also wearing like skin-tight rubber. At least it's a skin-tight rubber cocktail dress with frills on it. Like, we're getting new fashion elements in here. Oh boy. Yeah. A treat for my eyes.
Then we get this like stark contrast with the twins, because everyone else is in all black, right? And they're all white, and it's just like, whoa, okay, like these guys stand out. And it's like I really like the stuff that they start bringing in with that second film, especially once you start to understand like who the Oracle is a little bit, who the architect is a little bit. Yeah, that there are these programs that maybe are starting to think differently. Like maybe they're not necessarily for the Matrix or believe in all of like that stuff is really neat.
Did you say think differently intentionally as a nod to those old Macintosh ads?
No, I did not. That might have been some subconscious Freudian slip thing. No, but just the fact that they are like they're not all in sync. Right? They're not all thinking the same. They're being like, well, hey, what if things are different? Like we never like the old stuff that started all of this that happened so long ago. Like why? Like can't we show them a better way? Like, isn't there something we can do here? Yeah, I like that stuff. I like realizing that Smith is different from the other agents, that he can somehow go viral and they can't.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's just like there's all these interesting bits of like of just character development in places I think I was not expecting. I liked a lot there. So good stuff. But
I liked getting to see. Oh no, I was just gonna move on. I liked getting to see Zion. That was an interesting addition. I like that the first movie says there is this human city. And the second movie doesn't waste any time in getting us there. We get a lot of Zion very promptly.
How did you feel about the dance, the big old dance sequence?
I actually liked it. I liked the dance scene intercutting with Neo and Trinity in bed together, because nobody told me these movies were horny. I didn't know that was going to be part of it.
So the Matrix, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Matrix and the Matrix, the second one, Reloaded, were the first R-rated movies that I saw, I think. So yeah, this was like one of the first like on-screen like sex scenes I had seen. This it still is. It's hot. Like I remember back in the day being like, I'm gonna watch this in slow motion and pause it on certain little bits to see as much as I can see. And little old me was into it. So
it is a great illustration of we've had these intense action scenes. I liked getting to see action of another variety, just the kinetic movement of all of that dancing. And it's like group dancing, like everybody's bumping and grinding on each other in like a big huddle.
Yeah.
And yeah, just in a movie about the fall of humanity, of physical bodies, of living your life virtually, and how that the robots imprisoned you there, but also there's times when you want to do that. You want to go into the Matrix because you can eat a steak or make yourself wear the coolest coat you've ever imagined.
Yeah.
I like that reminder that we still have physical bodies for a reason. Like, we can do this. Nobody ever tries to do this. Like, it doesn't have the same virtual effect. It's like, we gotta do some R-rated dance moves. No principle's gonna separate us. And it's like the entire city. Like, the whole city gathers round. Morpheus does a speech, and they're like, all right, cool. Let's rub up on each other for energy before we go into battle. Right. Yeah. I appreciated the variety. I think the movie, it's almost like it was responding to me. I watched the first movie. I'm like, this is great, but it's sort of samey. And then the further sequels show you more different things. It's like, it's not all like green tints and sunglasses and black leather jackets.
Yep.
There's other colors. There's other textures you're going to get to see. I did think it was funny that you go to Zion and they're wearing those like apocalypse sweaters. Again, like, it's different than the leather coats, but it's like sacks. Everybody's got the same thing. And like, in a world where they go into the virtual world and they're like, I want myself to look like this. Is anybody in Zion trying to manufacture anything close to what it is that people want virtually? It's like, I go in the Matrix and I design this outfit. Has anybody like tried to design the outfit on a physical sewing machine? Do you have the resources? Are you working on it?
To be honest, it's probably because to manufacture the stuff at the number that people would probably want it.
Because it's 100% leather city. We've learned this.
All of that
That's
stuff.
What everybody
wants. They would have
wants.
to rely on more machines, and I know that they're always reluctant to rely on machines that have like artificial intelligence and stuff like that. Yeah, so like once the like if the machine is mechanical and that's it, they can probably use it, but it's still just like, I don't know. But
they've got their apocalypse sweaters. And you learn about like the military structure of Zion, and there's like different ranks, and you have to go talk to like a council and everybody's wearing their different color coded sweaters, and it feels very Star Trek all of a sudden, which I was not expecting.
Yeah. But it's still fascinating. Like we get, I feel like we get just enough of it to realize that there's tension here. Like this character and that one has a history, and we like it's enough to make me want more. But then we don't really get it enough. I feel like I feel like we could use more Zion scenes and stuff that's happening in there. And I feel like that would make things a little more interesting in the long run. I can see why they didn't put as much in. And I remember when these movies were coming out, people didn't like all of the Zion stuff because they thought it was taking away from the time we could have been spending like doing cool backflips and shooting guns and bullet time.
Yeah,
and
Zion
all that stuff,
is
right?
not cool.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think I never really had a problem with it, or I guess I never really understood why people didn't like it when I was younger. Now I understand it, but also looking back, I'm like, I actually like this stuff. Like, I want more of this.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Yeah. So good stuff there. In the third one, how did you feel about it turning into Pacific Rim there with all the mechs?
I did like the mechs. There's so much war. The third movie is like mostly war, and I did glaze over frequently during this one.
They zoom in on the climax, like I said. Yeah, it's just like, well, there's just not as much
like
here.
These action scenes have got more visual clutter to them, I suppose. They're not as clearly defined as earlier action scenes. Like, you've got all the different parts of your mech suits. You've got all the different parts of like the squid robots that they're fighting. It was just a little trickier for my eyes to like track the action. But the entire movie isn't like that. I liked the scenes where Neo goes to that subway station and it's all this like cold, clean white tile. And he just like, he's stuck there. He runs off screen in one direction, runs back in the other direction. He just keeps circling it. There's a shot of him like sitting sad on a bench in this train station. And he's like on one bench on one side of the screen. And then there's another bench in the middle. And there's like no bench on the third of the screen. It's like really stark and asymmetric. And he's just sitting there lonely for a couple frames. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean they still have some good stuff in that, but it's also like, well, you haven't established the Matrix as a war franchise, so that's a little strange. Like, I don't mind the action, but this is also such different action. It's mechs, right? It's not the martial arts that we've been seeing. This like superhero martial art. Like, if it had been more of that, maybe it would have been more interesting or something. Who knows? But yeah, it feels like such a change from the rest of the films that it just doesn't seem to fit as much. But of course, yeah, I do like all the stuff at the start where they're in that like all white subway station and you get to meet Sati, who's just the most curious character. It's great. And then when we saw the trailer for Matrix Resurrections and we saw that one girl who works at the coffee shop, everyone was like, I bet that's Sati. Oh my god, Sati, because they love her.
There.
She's great.
She's in there somewhere else.
Yeah,
I did like that addition that you have two programs who bred a child who has no purpose in the Matrix, so they have to send her away, otherwise the Matrix will delete her.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. So, Animatrix. Let's move on to that stuff. We've mentioned some of it. I did especially in the second Renaissance stuff. There's some haunting imagery. It is violent.
I was surprised at how graphic this like anime short film about robots was.
Yeah.
Like, without necessarily, and like graphic in that it's not gory. Like, the violence on the robots themselves.
Yeah.
it's like wires and coils and things. Yeah, it's an entirely different form of gory. Yes, I was very surprised, very impressed.
It's interesting because in the second Renaissance, the robots go from looking like these really cheesy, like Jetson-looking robots to all of a sudden you get a scene, this like it seems like newsreel footage in the midst of this big riot of this woman being pushed around, and she looks human, and she's getting beat up, and then all of a sudden someone gets like one really good hit on her face, and the skin comes off, and she's a robot underneath. And the last thing in that scene that you hear her say in that is, "I'm real." And it's haunting as she's like being killed by these humans. But the whole thing just escalates so fast. But it also feels like they do a great job of just telling you, like how quickly things escalated, how intense everything was with that. And it's interesting to see all the parallels between civil rights movements, all of the trans violence against trans people that you might see in all of that stuff, and then jumping straight into just the trauma of war and stuff like that. Like they pack so much in such a short time that it's wild, but they do it so adeptly. So good stuff there.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite short film in the Animatrix?
I think my favorite was World Record. All these shorts look very different from each other, and I like the long, elongated, almost rubbery in its own way designs of World Record. And I like that narrative that there is within the Matrix. A sprinter, somebody who can run so fast that he's like breaking records, and he's become like so good at running that it like he is a break in the Matrix. Like, oh, nobody's supposed to be that good at running. He is running too fast. Right. His program is broken. And he like runs so fast that he can see beyond the Matrix. Like he reaches a point of like clarity and euphoria where he can see through it. I thought that was a really interesting angle on how somebody would break through and discover that they were in a Matrix.
So something that's neat about this one is also a lot of the people that worked on these short films are like famous anime directors or animators or stuff like that. I don't know which ones off the top of my head here. But I know Shinichiro Watanabe, who worked on Cowboy Bebop. I know here on the show we've covered Kids on the Slope. He worked on some of these. It's neat to see these other creators take a crack at just these short stories, these short side stories where you can get someone who's just he's an athlete, and athletes are continually pushing themselves to do more, to be better, and this idea that you can eventually push yourself so far that you reach this like other plane of existence, right, is a fascinating story. That one's a really, really good one. I enjoyed that one a lot too. I think that one's up there with my favorite, and then I kind of like the one, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one about the kid that wills himself,
kid's story
kid's story, because that character then makes a return in the second and third Matrix movies. Like he is a live action character there. He's the kid in Zion who's just like super happy to like help out Neo. He's the one in the third film who's like, the war is over, the war is um, yeah, it's because he has a parallel story where he feels like something is different with his life. He feels
Hmm.
lonely. He feels like something is wrong with the world, that he doesn't fit in. And there's just in simple moments like his cell phone going off in class, there's just some real tension in the way they draw it and the way that they make the characters move. I think the art style in that one is fascinating to me because
Yeah.
it's more of the like pencil sketches, the
Hmm.
almost like the Take on Me music video, right? Is that the one, right?
Yeah.
But like in this like weird unnatural way. Like it's not just scratchy to be scratchy. The characters move in this really unnatural way. And when his cell phone goes off for the second time in class, there's just this like, there is this moment, this like 10 or 15-second moment where everything just stops and it focuses on the teacher and he stops writing and you can tell he's about to turn
Hmm.
around and say something. And if you've seen the Matrix, you know that the agents can turn it, like can appear out of
Yeah.
nowhere and borrow people's identity and stuff, and you feel like he's gonna turn around and it's gonna be Smith or
Mm.
something there, but it's not. But you have that tension of what's gonna happen next, and it's just it's neat. It's fascinating. I liked a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff.
I
Um,
I also artistically like that one. I think it's
mhm.
so loose and scratchy that I understand it could be a turnoff for some people, but I feel like that was deliberately chosen for that story because it reminded me of like a high school kid's notebook doodles. Like you're making like a flip
Right.
book in the corner of your notebook, and that's
Yeah.
all these characters look and move.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, and I think another really cool one, especially for it, like in conjunction with the Reloaded and Revolutions, is the final flight of the Osiris, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I also like
This is
that one.
the like all CGI one where it's the guy and the girl in that training
Yeah.
in the training program, and you're like, oh, okay, this is just going to be a rehash of Morpheus versus Neo. But what if it's a guy and a guy and a girl instead? And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's going to be a little more erotic than I thought. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, not exactly. That all got interrupted, and it is this, like, it ends up being this really
Right.
important mission that they see these sentinels and stuff drilling right above Zion, and they like have
Mm.
to escape and send word out. And I think it's neat to see that. What I think ends up not working about that and Reloaded and Revolutions is that, as in, like, we don't get enough of Zion. Like, I don't know what Zion looks
Yeah.
like. I don't know where the docks are in conjunction to
Hmm.
where everyone sleeps or where the High Council meets or stuff like that. There's no sense of space there. So the sentinels drilling into the docks, I don't know. Like, yes, that is a threat. They also mentioned that that would get past their security systems, so that's also bad. But like, how imminent is this here? How bad is this? Because it looks like there's enough time for them to have a big dance party. Like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
going on here? I don't know. So yeah, like that is the thing that I feel like does not work about those, but I still like seeing it tie in of like, oh, here's the story of this one ship. It is almost like the Rogue One of the Matrix stuff, where they have the plans for the Death Star, and they're trying to get that info back to the Resistance. So good stuff. But I wish they would make more. I want more of them. More comics, please. More anthology stories. Hopefully.
I do want to spend time with some of the things that are introduced in the new movie. I like this new crew. I think they're fun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you want to move on to Resurrections? Oh, I may have lost you there for a sec. You back now?
Yeah, I don't know how much more I have to say about it.
Okay, here we are. Okay. But yeah, let's move on to the Matrix Resurrections. Then I know we're still having a little technical difficulties, but that's what we can move on to. So, Melissa, when you can hear me, what else did you have to say about Resurrections here? Like we've talked about most as we like to call him there. Was there something else that stood out to you about this film that we haven't touched on yet?
I like that the linchpin of the entire thing, the most important element, was the relationship between Trinity and Neo. I like the energy those two had together. And I like that is literally what the movie is about. Like the robots found out that those two have got such an intense connection that they can get more battery power out of just those two and their love for each other than just like a bunch of sleeping humans. It's like in Monsters, Inc., where they're like, oh, it'll solve our energy crisis if we make the kids laugh instead of scream.
Yep.
And they just put them in like two pods close enough to each other that they can like sense that the other one is there, and put them in like star-crossed lover narratives where they see each other and they have this romantic tension, but they can't be together or they lose each other just over and over again. And that powers them. Much as it powers audience members who find relationships riveting and want to see favorite characters come back, want sequels for where is this relationship now? Or you think of people who write fan fiction where it's like, I love this couple. I want to see them angst. That'll do it for me. I'm not going to write a fic where everything's happy. Maybe we'll be at the end, but I'm going to tear these two apart. They're going to go through trials and tribulations first.
Yeah, I like that the love story is at the like center of this, and that it really is about love and how powerful of an emotion that can be, and how powerful of a connection that can be. And it's not just about willpower of like, oh, you willed yourself into the Matrix, or if you just believe, you can do it. But it is no, love can also be a force to be reckoned with here, and that can create new boundaries and new relationships and new normals if we let it. But yeah, like I said, this is one I'm gonna have to chew on a little more, especially with the kind of rocky start. I was not into how meta it was. Mm-hmm. But I liked where this movie went. I liked the second half of this a lot more. I almost would have been okay if you just chopped the movie in half and maybe mentioned a few of these things of like, oh yeah, the Matrix that they put Neo back into, he was a game designer and he made this game called The Matrix. You know, it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of stupid, but sure, right? Like that sounds like something the robots would do to make it seem familiar enough to him that he doesn't wake up, but different enough where it's like, okay, they can still control him, um, and stuff like that. But I loved seeing the humans and the machines work together. I liked all of these new kind of characters, Sabibi, and I forget what the other one, like Octocles, I think was his name. There, like that,
Something
that was
like
neat.
that.
Yeah, like I liked seeing that. I liked seeing that there was also this third uh species, I don't know if that's the right word, but these programs that wanted to
Yeah.
get out of the matrix, but because they don't have a physical body, they had to build some kind of technology to like physically represent them in
Mm-hmm.
the real world. I thought that was neat. That was amazing. The system in which they appear in other places is kind of strange. Like there's this scene when Neo is on the balcony and all of a sudden these like stone pebbles just like start falling down. That was a little strange. I don't know if I would like that if that was a real thing. If all of a sudden I just hear all these rocks like falling,
Right. They're just all the like when the program takes physical form, it's in like kinetic sand. It looks like the prologue at the beginning of Black Panther. That's what everybody looks like.
Yeah, that or like Man of Steel, how like all of I like the idea that they can manifest themselves physically in reality and do all of that stuff. That's awesome. And then to see how again, as we've been calling him most Morpheus, how he's just in that like in between that like all white space, and he's just like, welcome to the crib, like this is where I live, and he's just having a blast watching TV, making cocktails in his fancy outfits. But I like his character a lot when he's just like, hey, I know the character I'm supposed to be. Like, I know the older version that I'm supposed to be, which, by the way, in the canon of The Matrix, Morpheus's character dies in one of the video games that we can play, that, like, you can go buy at a store. Melissa, you can, or I guess I don't know if you can really play it now, but you used to be able to play this game. You could go physically buy it, and it was in canon with the movies, and that's where Morpheus died. So I don't know how, I'd never played it, so I don't know how much this movie retcons that or not. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting tidbit. But yeah, but how most Morpheus is just like, I'm supposed to be him and I will be him, but I will be my own version of him. Like, I'm gonna be myself. And that's why
I want to wear a goldenrod suit.
Exactly. Like, I'm gonna be more colorful. I'm gonna be day drinking the entire time. Like, I'm just gonna be the most, right? It's great. Like, I love his character, and when
He's
they do
fun.
the like rehash of the like fight scene in that Asian dojo thing, he's not just in a gi, right? Like, he's not just in that plain white or plain black like one colored suit. He's in these like extravagant like silky robes. It's so cool.
Stylish.
Yeah. He's much more flamboyant. He's much more out there and loud, and I like it. Because again, like we've been saying, like there's a lot more style in this newer Matrix. We get characters with blue hair, characters with hairstyles that I don't understand. Like, I don't know what that hairstyle is, but okay.
But I'm excited to see people cosplay these.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait for Matrix Resurrections to hit the con scene. Coming soon.
Absolutely. It's just it's good stuff. There's a lot more in this film that I think upon rewatching I will see more, I will understand more. But yeah, I also like what they did with just the structure of narrative and storytelling, and having it be a story that revolves around that, of just like how do we craft these narratives? How do we craft a narrative that we both want to make and don't want to make? Because we realize that like there's probably pressure from the movie studios to be like, hey, you know what's hot right now? Remakes or reboots or like re-sequel boots and things here. Like how do we make that? And it's like, well, I don't really want to make that. I don't want to do this like corporate mandated thing. To do all of that, but also like you said at the start, like Lana felt like these characters meant something to her and she wanted to spend time with them again. So how do you mix those, right? I thought that whole thing was fascinating, and yeah, I want to watch it again sometime, but I want to let it sit for a while here. What did you think about Trinity's character in this, both as a love interest and kind of as a character who then I feel like comes into her own? I think especially that end scene when they go confront the analyst, right? And she's just whooping his ass, and he's spitting out all of this misogynistic stuff of just like this is why women blah 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 blah. Why can't you control her and blah blah blah. Just like what did you think of her story arc in this one here?
I told my dad that I'd been watching all these movies for the first time, and I checked out the new one, and he's like, "Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I heard Neo isn't the one anymore." And I'm like, "No, I don't think the movie negates anything he did as the one in the original trilogy, but there's a different goal, there's a different obstacle here, and he just isn't the one for this narrative. He was before. The game has changed, and it is Trinity now, and it is their love for each other. It's the two of them as a unit. And you think back on how vital she was as a support system for him in the original trilogy, and how he doesn't know he is the one until she says that the Oracle told her she was destined to fall in love with the one, and she loves him, and so it must be him. Like they give each other so much confidence and hope. And I like that she got to do that again in this narrative. I reacted very positively to Trinity. Less as like a cool character. She's very cool. Like I said at the beginning, especially in the first one, everything is like so cool in like a way that I don't entirely relate to. She's not cool in a way I've ever wanted to be cool. But even in the scenes where like she's not like out there kicking butt and taking names, there's something about Carrie-Anne Moss that I found just very soothing. I just like her face. I like her voice.
She's a great actress. She's attractive. She's aged very well. Just
many people have.
Yeah, she just good stuff. Spot on. Thank you, Carrie-Anne Moss, for your service.
I reacted to her so warmly, so immediately when I turned on The Matrix for the first time that I thought, I must know this actress from something else. And I went through her IMDb, and like she's been, I saw Memento once. I think she was in that, but I don't remember it. I was thinking I would find like, oh, she was in a season of a TV show I loved when I was 14. She was in this movie I really liked when I was 9. I thought I would go back and find it, and I didn't. I just love her for being her, not for any nostalgic reason. It's just pure. First time I see her face, I'm like, this feels good. I'm real happy this lady's here. But while I was going back through her IMDb, I found some like 90s action movie I'd never heard of, never seen, not really interested in seeing it. But her character's name is Melissa Wilkins. And I'm looking at it on the app, and I thought, is this like cut off? Is there not enough space? Am I going to click on it to find that she played a character with my exact name once?
Is the Matrix real? Am I in the Matrix now?
Right.
Is this calling to me?
Not Melissa Wilkinson, but she was a Melissa Wilkins once. So maybe I like sense that energy coming off of her even today.
I mean, technically she would be a Wilkinson if you think about it, right? Because that's how we get the last names with son at the end. You are the son of Wilkin or Wilkins, right? You are Wilkinson. Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. That's wild. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I liked her character a lot. Yeah, like I said, I want more of the Matrix, especially in the time period we are now, or just before. Like, I would love to explore that 60 years. But this movie, yeah, still gonna have to chew on it. I ended up liking it though. I think the one thing for me that just didn't feel the same, like I kind of mentioned, was the fight scenes. I think for me there were flashes of like that was it, like what they just did right there. That's more of what I wanted. Like there's the one scene where Neo's fighting Smith and he does that like run along the wall in the corner to then like kick him in the chest or something, and Smith has to stop and just be like, nice move. Like that was good. Like that was my that was my reaction too of just like, nice move. That was it. Like more of that, please. Like I want the wall running, the bullet time, the like all that stuff. And I didn't feel like the fight scenes had that as much. They had a lot of martial arts, and I think they had great actors and great stunt work to make it all happen. But it just didn't feel the same. It was made differently. So that didn't sit well with me. And then I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the makeup and or CGI effect that they did on Jada Pinkett Smith's face. I felt like her face was very stiff and only her mouth moved there, and there was just no emotion on her face. That was a little off-putting.
Good to see her again, though. I like Niobe. I'm happy that Niobe's in charge of this world now.
Absolutely. I kind of would have hoped there was a few other characters in there that we recognize. Like I wanted to see more of Popper, who was the kid from the kid story, and then in like all of that stuff. But I think another detail that I'm kind of chewing on, it's was more of an artistic choice, is that like the sets and the scenes in IO I thought were fantastic. I loved it. But then when you get into the Matrix, especially on the train, it felt very fake. Like it seemed like they were using a lot more CGI and more green screen and stuff like that, which on one hand makes sense, right? They are in the Matrix, this virtual fake reality. It's supposed to not look real, at least to us, or at least be in this like uncanny valley, right? Of just like to the characters that are actually in there, it looks real. But to us, maybe watching, they're trying to maybe just barely clue us in that, hey, this is fake. Like, this is not real. So I get it and I understand it. I don't know if I like it yet. I did, however, really like the subtle touches of the code, like in the background, like when you look at the window and the rain on that, like that was chef's kiss. That was great. That's a great way to make it, to like clue us in that, hey, this is the Matrix, without doing that like green tint on everything that they used to do. But they still use green as a color to represent that you're in the Matrix still, of just the coffee shop has that like green. Simulate, right, is the name of the thing, because the book that Neo had in that first one was the Simulacrum. I think that's the name. So yeah, I mean they have clues like that I enjoy, but the code just ever so subtly being there in the background of scenes, amazing. Chef's kiss. It was great. I loved it a lot. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to dive back into the Matrix Resurrections at a later date, and see feel about it later on.
Hmm.
All of that stuff. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I honestly think I'm kind of matrixed out. I think I've reached
I think so.
the amount of things I was prepared to say. These aren't fascinating, deep, multi-layered films, but I did just take all of them in for the first time
At once,
and
yeah.
it is a bit overwhelming. I'm just
absolutely.
I love love. I like the sexy dancing. I like when they add more colors than green. How many Smiths can I see on screen at once?
Exactly. I also do want to give a shout out to the bot bomb scene. It could be a very not problem. I don't know if problem, maybe triggering is the right word there, because it does look a lot like, I mean, it basically is suicide there.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene in the new one when the bots are just like jumping out of the windows to try and like hit Neo and Trinity.
Yeah.
God, that scene was incredible. That was a great scene, but it's haunting and it's uncomfortable, and it just great stuff there. So shout out to that scene. I liked it a lot. But yeah, I think that's all the Matrix we got for you in this one. But Melissa, it's time to check in on bingo. First bingo of the year. I'm super excited. Yesterday, you and I built out our cards. I have them. I can now pull them up on screen. Bam, there you go. You can see our bingo cards if you guys are watching the video version of this, and you can see what each of us has on our cards. We put some new stuff on there. We took some. We took a couple of them off. Not much. But yeah, we each have we built them all out here. So we have our free spaces on there already. Let's see what we got on our cards from the Matrix here. Let's see. I know I'm pretty sure we have some of this in here.
I've got a copy of my bingo sheet here in my Excel, and I think I've got 6 that I can cross off already.
There's kind of a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that happens when you watch 5 films. It's pretty comprehensive. I can get there is a Wilhelm scream somewhere. I didn't write down like specifically what the scene is, but I know I heard one in like the first or second movie. It was there. I'm keyed into the Wilhelm scream.
Okay,
we have a fight in the rain.
We do. Yep.
Very clear. An actor from Lost, which I wanted to put on my bingo sheet before you pitched me these movies. Before I started Reloaded, and I'm like, wow, Harold Perrineau is in this. It's good to see him.
Okay, let me see here. This guy's being our thing's being a little funky here and not letting me highlight.
I've got a copy of mine that I'll track, and we can update your copy of it next week.
I don't know why it's just not letting me. It should be like I'm using the highlighter, trying to click on the text, and instead it's bringing up a text box, and I don't want that. I don't know what's happening here. Let's see. The highlighter on, yes, and the highlight. No, don't just. God damn it.
We can figure it out next week. Don't worry about it.
All right, mission failed. Don't have our bingo thing up here. That's
We've
stupid.
been here for 2 hours already. I have a life to live. We'll talk about the highlighter tool next week.
Oh well.
I wrote down mocap character, and I just realized I would have to look at actual behind the scenes footage to confirm if, like, most Fius when he's made out of kinetic sand, if that is entirely digital, or if they did put mocap dots on the guy to make that happen. So soft yes on mocap character there. Cannot confirm.
I feel like there would have to be at least some mocap for also the like Morpheus or the Neo and Smith fight scenes and stuff.
Oh, true. Oh, you're right. Yeah, back then there was mocap. They put dots on their face or made them wear silly little speed suits. We've got somewhere in here we can definitely get it. Okay, hard yes on mocap then. I can also cross off Identity Crisis and Guy in the Chair. Thanks again. I think best Guy in the Chair performance by Harold Perrineau as Link. He mostly sits.
Yep.
Doesn't get to move much except for in the dance scene. Oh, can I also cross off Breaks into Dance?
Yes. Yeah.
I've got that.
Because there's a
that's on my sheet.
Dance montage. Yeah. So I have an actor from Lost, Guy in the Chair, mocap character. We got a lot from this one. Villain with a pet. Neil Patrick Harris and his cat is in this one. Training montage is in this one. Let's see.
Oh yeah, definite villain monologue. Yes, I've got that one too. Heck, that's what the architect is.
Let's see. I have character who connects to computers, but that's not what I was thinking of for the Matrix. I'm thinking more of like connects to them and can control them, if that makes sense. I mean,
like a live wire
can control them. Yeah, something like that.
A classic technopath.
But I think that's it. That's kind of it, unless you want to argue like character gets hit through building, but I don't know.
No. Oh, we can. This is week 1. We're going to be doing these for the rest of the year, so we don't have to be super duper attentive at week 1. We can have more arguments as the year goes on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an update on Bingo. I'm disappointed that my idea of bringing it up on screen didn't work out exactly like I had hoped. I built this all yesterday. So excited. Oh well. But yeah, all right. So cool. That is our update for Bingo. We'll figure out how to bring it up on screen so we can update it and all of that. And yeah, there we go. In the meantime, Melissa, do you have recommendations?
I do. If you liked The Matrix, particularly if you liked The Matrix, the first movie in the series, I would recommend that you watch Primer. This is a movie we covered late 2019, I think. And it is a very small, like micro budget, super indie movie about a couple engineers with office jobs who accidentally invent time travel. And they get into this little time travel box and they keep going back to like cheat the stock market. Like that's their plan. They just want to make money so that they can fund their next project. And they realize they're not on the same page as to how time travel should be used. And they find out that each of them are keeping secrets from each other and going back when they said they wouldn't go back. And it is a a movie you have to draw a chart for. It's super complicated, and it is the cerebral energy of the first Matrix, but in less philosophical and more about like, here's just a physics problem you have to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. We covered that here on the review show back on episode 85. So if you want to go check that one out, we have a podcast on that as well. Any more recommendations that you want to toss out?
I would recommend, there's an audio drama called Rabbits. This is from Terry Miles. It's in the same family of shows as Black Tapes, Tanis, Fairy, all of that little corner of the Pacific Northwest stories, faux investigative journalism, docudramas. And it is about a alternate reality game where the players find patterns in the world. They find patterns and they find discrepancies. You'll go to a museum and you'll see a painting and you're like, the house in this painting is supposed to have a third window. Why does this only have 2 windows? And then you look it up and it's like, no, the painting's always had 2 windows. And you're like, it's supposed to have 3 windows. Like something's broken. It's about like finding like Mandela effects. And the more of those you find, it's like you're cluing into when the game is breaking reality. And the creator of this audio drama, Terry Miles, just put out a novel that is about different characters than who we follow in the audio drama. But it is about somebody who realizes the game might be broken and they are trying to find the patterns, figure it out, solve it, and like reset the game before the game completely tears reality apart beyond just like, the Steely Dan named their song something different than what it's supposed to be named. Why is the title of the Steely Dan song wrong? It's like, no, reality is completely going to collapse unless you find all these patterns. It reminds me of the scene where Neo sees the cat twice looping over, and they're like, oh, that's a glitch in the Matrix. The whole book is about like finding glitches in the Matrix. And another neat thing about it is that the book is written in first person. And the narrator's like, hi, I'm Kay. Like, they just introduce themselves with an initial. You don't find out their full name. And there's no references to gender. Like, the character's never given pronouns. Nobody ever talks about them. They're just talking to them. They make no references to how they do or don't identify. There's not like clues. I don't think it's a mystery you're supposed to solve. Every love interest they mention is a woman, but what does that tell you? You could be in anything. Yeah, very interesting addition to this add-on that part of the character's identity is not in play. You never find out anything about them. It's just about their personality, their past, their relationships, and how they play this game and how they're trying to solve it.
Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. So the first thing that I want to recommend is Ghost in the Shell. It's a favorite anime of mine. And this is one of the things that The Matrix was influenced by. I remember interviews where they were talking about like, hey, a lot of the scenery of how the cities look in Ghost in the Shell, that's how we want our cities to look like in The Matrix. And also the like connector in the back of the head that they jack into, that is taken from Ghost in the Shell. All of that stuff. So I would highly recommend that. It is philosophical. If you like sci-fi, it digs into all of that stuff. There's great action. It's definitely one to check out if you are a fan of The Matrix and you liked these. I would highly recommend that. Melissa just dropped out of the call on me here, probably fixing something on her end, and she's back. I couldn't see anything going wrong. Discord just rebooted itself and rebooted the call. Weird. On top of that, I would also like to recommend Tron Uprising. that we covered back on episode 122 of the Whatnauts review show here. Tron, like living inside a computer program, and just programs have jobs and purposes, and here's some of them that are maybe going against their purpose and stuff like that, or here's one that is maybe the savior of things or is leading a resistance. So there's some interesting similar themes in Tron Uprising, which was a cartoon actually. It is available on Disney Plus, is where you guys can watch it. I think it only ran for 2 seasons.
I think just one, unless there were 2 short seasons, because we watched the whole thing in a week.
Yeah. So it must have been real short. But yeah, from what we did watch, I liked it. There was some really interesting stuff. It was a shame that it got canceled, because I think it was just starting to really dig into the more interesting stuff about its plot and its characters and stuff like that. So just know that it did get canceled and technically didn't finish. But if you want more, like, what's it like to live inside a computer and be a program, Tron Uprising might be one to check out. There you go. Those are our recommendations.
All right.
Melissa,
first set of pitches of the new year. Yes.
Woo! What do you got?
New year, new genre. I wanted to pick 3 films from a genre we've never really explored, which is a Western. The closest we've come is that a couple years ago, we read a horror comic called American Vampire, and the character we're following across the centuries was turned into a vampire in a Western type setting, but it's we're only there for like a couple issues, and then the narrative moves on to another time period and another set of genre conventions. Yeah. So this is a space we've never really played in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So pitch number 1, and these are all like more contemporary movies. These aren't like dad westerns. I thought that might make it a little easier.
The classics.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, pitch number 1 is a movie that I think is considered a classic of the time frame it came out in, Tombstone.
Okay, yeah. Yep,
this came out in
classic.
93 or something. I took a screenshot of some details. The year got cut off. I think it's like 93.
Okay.
Wyatt Earp and his brothers Morgan and Virgil have left their gunslinger ways behind to settle down and start a business in the town of Tombstone, Arizona. While they aren't looking to find trouble, trouble soon finds them when they become targets of the ruthless cowboy gang. Seeing cowboys capitalized, like it's not a gang of cowboys, it's a gang of cowboys that name themselves Cowboy Gang. Now together with Wyatt's best friend Doc Holliday, the brothers pick up their guns once more to restore order to a lawless land.
I'll be your Huckleberry. There we go.
Right. We can see Val Kilmer offer to be a Huckleberry. We've got Kurt Russell. We've got Mr. Western himself, Sam Elliott. You can hear his beautiful voice. Big cast in this movie. Lots of people, lots going on. I think it's regarded as being pretty fun.
Indeed.
Pitch number 2 is the Coen Brothers remake of the movie True Grit. This came out in 2010, and I picked this one because this stars a young Haley Steinfeld, and we were just talking about how much we enjoyed her performance in Hawkeye. I don't know if this is her first role, but I think this is the first time I ever remember hearing about her, so maybe we could take a look back in the career of this actor we enjoyed. On a mission to find her father's killer, a 14-year-old girl and the U.S. Marshal she hires are joined by a Texas Ranger. The trio's true grit is tested as they embark on a quest for justice. Not a very detailed movie description I found for that one, but yeah, remake of an old John Wayne movie by the Coen brothers. It stars Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, Josh Brolin, our old friend.
It's a good one too, yeah.
Yeah. And pitch number 3. Do you remember couple months ago on the Captain's Log where you talked about a Benedict Cumberbatch movie that played at some film festival that got a 4-minute standing ovation, and you were like, I can't even imagine a 4-minute standing ovation.
Yeah.
What's in the movie that made that happen? That movie is The Power of the Dog. It just came out on Netflix earlier this year, directed by Jane Campion. A domineering rancher responds with mocking cruelty when his brother brings home a new wife and her son, until the unexpected comes to pass. Which presumably is that the brother dies and now he's responsible for this wife and son he doesn't like. But we'll see what actually happens.
Interesting. Ooh, man. Okay, you made that very difficult because Tombstone and True Grit are both very good movies. It's been so long since I've seen either of them. I feel like Tombstone is maybe the more classic Western of the bunch, where True Grit is a more modern drama in that. And then I don't know anything.
Never seen it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this third one. The name is The Power of the Dog, right?
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It just came out, I think, like this year, very recently. It said 2021, so I guess it's come out in the last 9 days.
Okay. That one I know nothing about.
Oh, wait, no. It was sometime last year. We're in 2022 already. I don't recognize time anymore. It's new movie. It new.
I'm kind of wanting to pick The Power of the Dog just based on the recent accolades.
Yeah. I want to know what's in there.
I think
I want to know what powers that dog has.
Right. I think I might go with that one. But I'm also like just like but like we could also like it'd be neat to have like a classic Western in our library of stuff that we've covered here on the review show.
We can circle back to this later this year.
Yeah, more Westerns in 2022 would be a great thing. I know I want to bring more like kaiju stuff to the show this year, more K-dramas. All of that stuff. But I think, I think for this next week, let's go with The Power of the Dog, because I'm fascinated by this 4-minute standing ovation that this film got. Am I kind of like jump out of my bed at this and start clapping in my room, being like, yeah, you get him, Benedict Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever your name is. So yeah, let's go with that. The Power of the Dog. On Netflix.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Look for that next week.
I'm excited. Yeah.
And then also,
in the meantime, I was just going to say, in the meantime, also start reading Knights of Sidonia. We will update you on exactly how much we're going to be covering at the end of this month. It will at least be the first 4 volumes. So you can at least do that. If we do more, it will be the first 6. So just keep that in mind. There you go. Melissa, you were about to say something.
I'm just hungry and I'm ready to plug my stuff and get going, Kyle.
Sounds good. So with that, yes, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit, WILKYWIT, and listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, a show where my brother Jams and I talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
There you go. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. If you guys want to stay up to date with all the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. Like I mentioned, we also have a brand new TikTok. At the time of recording this, there's still nothing up there, but we are going to be getting things up there this week as we start posting on that too, so you guys can see our short videos. So go follow us on TikTok at the Whatnauts. We're on there too. So with that wraps things up for episode 188 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.